Most people never really feel from God what I'm about to help you experience. And if you stick around to the end of this video, you'll see why this is one of the biggest reasons people struggle to hear God clearly. You see, I've spent the last few years helping hundreds of people learn how to hear God's voice, not just at church, but in everyday life. And what I've discovered is that most of us are trying to earn something God is already showering upon us. And it's not just love. It's something that God expressed just after Jesus was baptized. And I believe the feeling God shares in that moment is one major secret to hearing him clearly. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 5 simple steps that will help you experience the truth of who God is. And I believe it will unlock more of his voice in your life. So let's begin with step 1, recognizing what's been getting in the way. In order for any transformation to take place, we need to first recognize and admit the lies you currently believe that take you away from the truth. And when it comes to hearing from God, we need to understand the lies we believe about who he is. My friends Jamie and Donna Winship, they once spoke at this large Christian high school, and they asked a simple question. They said, okay, by the raise of hand, how many of you believe God is disappointed in you? And every single hand went up. There was over 1,000 students at this Christian school, along with the teachers, and they were all raising their hands. I just want you to think about that for a moment. And to be truthful, if you had asked me this question 3 years ago, I probably would have raised my hand too. Now, here's the problem. When you learn to see God's face as disappointed, when you think that someone's disappointed in you, it's almost impossible to relax in their presence. So I want you to just pause for a second and ask yourself this. Where in my life do I assume God's disappointed with me? Maybe you've made some mistakes, or there are things you haven't done that you felt prompted to do. Or maybe you keep slipping back into the same old habits. But I just want you to notice what comes up. Because the first step in hearing God clearly is recognizing the false voice of condemnation that drowns the truth of his character out. And this leads us to step 2, which is all about reframing God's heart. Recently I was at a hotel and I felt a nudge from God to go for a run. So halfway through the run, I thought to stop at this gas station. And I walked in and I asked God, okay, Lord, is there anyone you want me to talk to? And as I stood there awkwardly looking at the people getting their morning coffee, I had various thoughts to start up a conversation. But in the end, I was just scared. I was scared to act on any of it. You know that feeling of all the chatter in your head, like giving excuses not to do something, things like, oh, they'll think you're weird. This is dumb. What am I doing here? This is weird. Needless to say, I ended up not talking to anyone, and I couldn't help but feel like I'd missed it. I missed the chance to share more about God, or to help someone or pray with someone, just to experience more of God in their life. And I remember praying to God on the way back to the hotel. Lord, can you just please take away my fear? Can you just help me to show up with more courage? And I just kept reflecting on this experience. And when I got to the hotel, I realized something in reflecting on it. I realized that my own self-disappointment was clouding my view of God. I was holding myself to such a high standard that my view of God was tainted. When God spoke after Christ was baptized, he said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Jesus hadn't even begun his ministry. He hadn't done any miracles, and yet the Father was so delighted and pleased in him. How many of us start our days on a mission to fulfill an impossible standard of perfection. It's like, I want to do everything right today. I want to be kind and patient and follow all of God's promptings. But this impossible standard stops us from starting our journey of the day with God's delight. I think the correct way to view God is to wake up every morning with God smiling and saying, Tyson, you are my beloved son. I'm so glad you exist and that we get to spend this day together. I told my friend about my gas station experience, and she reminded me that God's proud of me for even going, and that he delights in the fact that I tried and that I'm trying to just listen to him. It's kind of like how I felt when watching my kids take their first steps. Didn't really matter if they fell. I was just excited that they were trying and celebrated them along their learning journey. All I know is that when you start to see God differently, you start to experience life differently, which leads to step 3, which is to actually see what delight looks like. Now, here's the thing. Once we remind ourselves of the truth of who God is, I actually find it helpful to reflect on what delight looks and feels like. And this is where some people can run into challenges. I know many people who have no memory of being delighted in, no clear experience where they saw a parent's face filled with pure love and joy. And here's the thing. I feel like I had amazing parents, but I could probably count on one hand the amount of memories I have where I felt pure delight from them. And so what do we do with this? Like, how do we experience delight when it's hard to remember or when we have no lived experience of it? And one way that I thought would be cool is just by drawing on the experiences of others. So I'm going to actually show you a series of reunions, moments where people haven't seen each other for a long, long time, and for you to just witness the faces and the joy and the expressions of those in these reunions. Now, I want you to imagine what these people might be thinking in these moments, because these moments capture what it looks like and feels like when a loving God sees you. So let's roll some of the clips and then I'll teach you some more.
Timed perfectly. Not a dry eye in the stands, as father and daughter were reunited again.
Welcome back home. First lieutenant.
Oh, Daddy.
Oh.
Hi.
I'm coming.
Now I want you to just take a deep breath here as we just transition from watching this. And I want you to notice how you feel in watching these moments of reunion. Like when you don't see someone you love for a long time and all of a sudden they're there, is how would that feel? I think that this same kind of emotion is part of what Christ was trying to convey when he taught the parable of the prodigal son. And I want to share that parable with you in a new way that you probably haven't heard of. So in this parable that Jesus taught, he says that there was a father who had 2 sons, and the younger son asked for his inheritance. And for the culture at that time, to ask for your inheritance before your father's passing would be the equivalent of saying, Dad, I wish you would just die so that I could have my share of your wealth. So even in this great disrespect, the father actually gives the son his share of his wealth. And the son then goes and he spends it all on riotous living, doing things that he thought would be fun. And he ends up in a place of poverty. He has no friends. He has no food. And he comes to a point of realization where he thinks, here am I in this poverty, and at my father's house, even the servants have a better life than this. So I may as well go back to my father's house and I'll just ask to be a servant because I'm no longer worthy to be called a son. So if you can imagine the son coming back home, if you were in this son's shoes, if I was in this son's shoes, I think I would experience the greatest amount of resistance and shame the closer I got home. That once I come over the hill and I see my home, that's the moment the voice of shame would say, turn around, they're going to reject you. This is not a good idea. What were you thinking? And in this moment that I think would be the time that I would turn around, the father sees his son from afar and runs to him. It's as if the father says, I've been looking for you, watching for you, hoping that you'd come back. And now that I see you, I'm going to run to you before you can even think to turn around and go away from me. The son then rehearses the idea of, I'm no longer worthy to be your son. I'll just be your servant. And the father doesn't even acknowledge his request. He just tells the servants, go get him a new robe, new shoes, and a new ring. A ring to put on his finger. All of these symbolic of the truth of who he really is as a son, not a servant. Oh, and by the way, I want you to kill the fatted calf and we're going to celebrate because I thought my son was dead, but he's alive. And I'm so happy he came back home. This is the Father that we have. This is the same Father in heaven that said about Jesus after he was baptized, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, who I'm just delighted in. He hasn't done any miracles. He hasn't done anything crazy or significant. I just love him. I just love you. You woke up this morning. I just love you. This is the view of God and the experience of God that we're missing. It makes a huge difference in our ability to experience hearing his voice, experiencing his presence wherever we go. Now, we've been talking about the truth of God's love, but I want you to not just have head knowledge about it. I want you to experience it. And everything I've shared is nice, but this exercise I'm about to walk you through is where your heart and your mind can actually be transformed. So don't just listen to this. I want you to engage in what I'm about to lead you in. I want you to open your heart. I want you to let go of any disbelief. Just treat this as a, 2-minute experiment that could change your life. We're just going to try something out and see what happens. And before I lead you in this, I want you to know that I do exercises like this for free every single day. And I'll put a link in the description for where you can learn more. But know that just like exercising your physical muscles, it takes practice to exercise your spiritual muscles and develop a conversational friendship with God. All right? So let's begin the exercise by taking a few deep breaths. You can just breathe deeply into your belly. And as you exhale, I invite you to lower your shoulders. Just let them drop. Relax your neck. Relax your head. And I'll invite you to close your eyes as this helps engage your other senses. So close your eyes and imagine yourself walking into a large room. And there's food and tables and plenty of people. And they're talking with each other. And you look around for someone you might know, someone to talk to, but you feel out of place. So you kind of just keep your head down. And you're a little afraid of what others might think about you. But as you lift your head, you see Jesus in the distance. And he's softly smiling at you. And there's something familiar about him. Like he's an old friend that always saw the best in you. It feels like he's actually been searching for you the whole time, just waiting for you to make eye contact. And once you do, his smile widens and he starts running towards you. And you can't help but make your way towards him. It's like reuniting with a best friend. And when you reach each other, he gives you a big hug and just says, "I'm so glad you are here. It's so good to see you. I was waiting for you." Now the party can get started. His love, his excitement, his joy, they just fill you up. And where once you felt alone, you felt sad, you felt forgotten, Jesus brought love, joy, and friendship. And I invite you to just breathe that in. Breathe in the truth that that's exactly how Jesus would greet you. Now, whatever you noticed, I invite you to share it in the comments. And for those of you who had a hard time, visualizing anything or experiencing the love and joy of Jesus Christ, I just invite you to check out the Receive Academy. There are plenty of videos that I've done on YouTube just on what blocks people from receiving from God, but I find it's very helpful to be in a community where you can practice more exercises and go through very specific steps and just to have someone to support you on your journey. So if that's what you experience, there's a link in the description. Okay. Now, step 5, there is one last step that most people skip, but is vitally important. Because the exercise we just did is like doing one piano lesson. And no one would expect that you become a master at playing the piano after just one lesson. So one practice of receiving God's delight, or even trying to receive God's delight, it won't sustain you. A life of joy requires that you remain in God's love. And here's the secret. God's voice always sounds like love, even if he chastises you and tells you to shape up. He does it with love and with a belief in you that you don't feel shame. It's just conviction. Like, go and do this. And so the clearer his delight becomes to you, the clearer his voice will be. God's not waiting for you to fix yourself. He's not the Father that says, clean up your life and then come home to me. No, he's the Father that has been waiting and says, when are you coming? Come home now. Come as you are. Come as your messed up, mistaken self. I just want to be with you. I want to help you. I want to celebrate every single time you look in my direction. All I know is that the more you let the truth of who God is soak in, the more peace you will feel. And the easier it will be to recognize when he's speaking. So as you go through your day today, pause for a moment here and there and just remember his smile. Remember that he's always looking for you, waiting for you, and delighting in you simply because you exist. That's how you remain in his delight. That's how you live in his voice. Now, if something stirred within you during this time, I'd just love for you to share what you noticed in the comments below, because your story, your experience might help someone else feel seen. And it just reinforces, when you write things down, it reinforces what you notice, what you experienced. And if you want to keep practicing this, learning to live from love instead of from hustle and striving, this is what we do every day inside the Receive Academy. It's a space where you practice being loved, being delighted in, and hearing God together with other people, because Jesus is already smiling at you. He already delights in you. And when you rest in that, you'll not only hear him more, but you'll be more confident, more courageous, more guided in your steps, more joyful, more of who you really are. And Jesus just wants to heal every wound you have and help you live in freedom. So come and join me. Come hang out with me and the hundreds, soon to be thousands of others walking this path. Okay? Until next time, we'll see you later.